We'll do
Yeah,
table.
you said you got it right today.
I know I've been practicing. So, okay. Dalit Yud Aleph. Ant.
Wait, hold on. Is that
No, that's
right?
Paya. I'm sorry. I put in the wrong. No, we're on Paya. We're on Paya.
No, we're in Kilayim.
Wait, don't get me confused. I picked the wrong one over here. I can't get it right.
Well, at least you named it right, even if you had the wrong book out.
Oh my gosh. It's not funny. Okay. I guess it is. All right. Okay, we're on
Gimel base.
Gimel base. No species of seeds may be sown in one bed, but any species of vegetables may be sown in one bed. Mustard and small smooth peas are species of seeds. Large peas are species of vegetables. A border which measures one tefachim high and diminished remains valid since it was valid at the beginning. A furrow or a water channel, one tefachim deep, may be sown with three seeds, one on one side, one on the other, and one in the middle. If the point of a row of vegetables enters into a field of a different vegetable, it is permitted, because it is apparent that it is the end of his field. If his field was sown with vegetables and he wishes to plant it in a row of different vegetables, Rabbi Yishmael says only if the furrow is open from one end of the field to the other. Rabbi Akiva says the length of 6 tefachim and its full width. Rabbi Yehuda says the width of the sole of a foot. And if one plants 2 rows of cucumbers, 2 rows of gourds, 2 rows of Egyptian beans, it's permitted. 1 roll of cucumbers, 1 roll of gourds, and 1 of Egyptian beans is forbidden. 1 roll of cucumbers, 1 roll of gourds, and 1 roll of Egyptian beans, and 1 roll of cucumbers, Rabbi Eliezer permits, but the cucumbers forbid.
Right.
Okay.
Mishna, hey, notea Adam kishus delas l'toch guma achas. So let's say you've got one ditch, and all you want to plant there is one cucumber plant, and one gourd on the other side, and that is permissible. They have to be pointing in opposite directions. So basically, you got to train the plants to grow in opposite directions in order to show that they are not intertwined and haven't been planted together. And there you go. Finally, after all this time, we see it in black and white in the Mishnah that everything we've been talking about is a gezerah of Maris Ayin. And we spoke about that in our Kasra Shir as well, is about Maris Ayin. Okay, and that's and what's the ikar prohibition of Kilayim is sewing them together. Okay, the fact if they subsequently grow together, there's no Isser happened if they grow together. All that you have to make sure is that the appearance is not that you planted them together, because you don't want anyone coming and making an incorrect deduction, saying, "Oh, look, that cucumber and that gourd are growing together. It must be permitted to plant them together."
So if seeds, when they plant the seeds, if seeds happen to blow in the wind in the wrong or right direction, whatever you want to call it, and they start growing in the place they shouldn't, so then we have
some Mishnahs coming up that deal with exactly that case.
Okay, good.
Okay. Okay. Haisa Sadehu Zerua Betsalim. So he had a field of onions. And he wants to plant some good inside that field. Rabbi Yishmael Omer, so because good follows a different set of rules from other plants because it is it grows and spreads pretty wildly. So we said in the previous Mishnayos, we said that you can just pull out a row and grow a row of whatever vegetable you want in the middle, but good is different. Rabbi Yishmael says that you have to take out 2 rows of onions to make space for 1 row of good. Meniach kamas betzalim b'makom shtei shuros, and you leave some onions growing in the place of 2 rows. Now, why would a person want to plant alternate rows of onions and gourds? I have no idea. Maybe he thinks it looks pretty. But basically, the diagram that you see in the Kahati shows how if you wanted to make alternate rows of onions and gourds, then you have to leave a gap in between of 2 amas in each case. So if the onions are 4 amas, right? Because you got two, so each row of onions takes up 4 amas. So where you've got that big bracket there saying 12 amas, that's 2 rows of onions makes 8 amas, and the 2 empty gaps on either side, each one being 2 amas, makes up 4 amas. So that makes a total of 12. Then you've got 1 row of gourd, which is 4 amas, and another empty gap of 2, and then once again you can put your onions on the side. So basically, in the space of the 4 amas where you uprooted, so if you uprooted 2 rows of onions, each one being 4 amas, then you've got a gap of 8 amas. You can plant a gourd in the middle of that, which takes up 4 amas, and then you've got to leave 2 amas gap in between them and the onions on either side. Okay, this is Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva Omer, okay, shtei shuros, v'notea shtei shuros. No, you can uproot 2 rows and plant 2 rows. Okay, in the place of this, and you don't have to have the two gaps, the 2 amas gap in between. It's enough that there's a ditch in between them, that there's a furrow in between, and that's good enough, just like anything else. Okay, shtei shuros, and then so again he says meniach b'tzal. Sorry, let me go back to again beginning of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, okay, shtei shuros, you uproots 2 rows, and notea shtei shuros. Umaniach kamas betzalim bimkum shtei shuros and shtei shuros. You leave 2 rows of onions. Okay, shtei shuros, v'notea shtei shuros, and once again you can uproot 2 rows of onions and plant 2 rows of gourds. No need for any gap in between, says Rabbi Akiva. Chachamim omrim, im ein bein shur lechaverta shtei misrei ama lo yikayem es hazera shel b'tzayim. If there's no gap between them of 12 amas, then you may not keep the thing that's planted in between. Now, let's just explain that inside the commentary, because it's not entirely clear what that means. Okay, if you don't have between the rows of good 12 amas. Now look back at the diagram that we did for Rabbi Shmuel. You see that 12 amas over there is the gap between good and good.
Okay, right.
Okay, you see that. Okay, then he's not allowed to keep the onions that are in between them because of Kilayim. So in the Yerushalmi, we explained that the Chachamim hold like Rabbi Shmuel over here, that you have to have this gap of 12 amas in between. It's just that they disagree about the shir harchaka shebein ha-betzalim l'teluim. That how much gap do you need to have between the onions and the good? According to Rabbi Shmuel, you need 2 amas gap, as we see in the diagram. Okay, whereas Chachamim, you can plant onions throughout the whole 12 gap. You don't need to have a gap at all. So if you could have 3 rows of onions there, in other words, according to the Chachamim.
Why wouldn't it look like Kilayim then if it's right next to each other?
Right, because it's similar to the case of the Mishna, the Mishna a couple of times ago, where we said if you have a row if you have a field of cucumbers and you want to plant a row of onions, then you have to then we said Rabbi Yishmael. Where did we see this? It was in Mishna Gimel. Yeah. It was in Mishna Gimel that we did Chazara on today. So if we said if his whole field was sown with vegetables, let's say onions, and he wants to plant a row of another vegetable, so let's say spinach. Okay, so Rabbi Shmuel said the new row has to go all the way through the field.
To the end, right.
Right, to the end, and but we didn't say anything there about a gap. We're only talking about a gap here because it's good. Good is a special case where Rabbi Akiva comes and says, no, it just has to be 6 tvachim, so it's mechubad, and you can see it's a separate patch of its own, and it's got to have a gap of 6 tvachim width as well. It's got to have the width of this area also has to be 6 tvachim. And Rabbi Yehuda says that the width only has to be the size of a foot, as long as you can see that in one dimension, it's mechubad.
Rabbi Yehuda or Rabbi Yishmael?
No, so in Mishnah Gimel, there were 3 opinions. There was Rabbi Yishmael, there was Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Yehuda. In our Mishnah again, it's Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Akiva, and this time Chachamim.
What when they say unknown, what does that mean? Unknown? Does it mean it's an empty field, or it's nothing's growing there, or
Where do you see the word unknown?
um unsown? I'm sorry, unsown means that we don't plant anything there. It's just empty.
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So that's the difference in our Mishnah between Rabbi Shmuel and the Chachamim, is that Rabbi Shmuel requires you to have a gap of 2 amas between the good and any other vegetable, whereas Chachamim just say that there has to be, if you want to have other vegetables planted between good, then there has to be 12 amas in between them, and you can plant as close as you like to the good, and it's fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay, and halacha follows the Chachamim.
Okay.
Mishnah Zayin, delas beyarak. Now, what happens when you have delas beyarak, kayarak, when you want to come and sow a single good in a field of vegetables, kayarak. In other words, the din is like a yarak, which means that you have to leave a gap of 6 tfachim to show the separateness. Okay, but tvua, that if you're planting if you want to plant a good in the middle of a wheat field, nosnin la base rova. There you have to leave the base rova, which basically means a width of a meter or so. And we said it was just over 100 tfachim, 10 tfachim. Okay, instead of 6 tfachim. Okay. Nosnin la base rova. Hai sasadeo zrua tavua. So now he's got a wheat field. And he decides that he wants to sow a row of good inside it. Now we get a little more makil. We only need to leave a gap of 6 tfachim for working these for tending to the goods. So it's a 6 tfachim gap between it and the wheat. You see that there's a difference, that we were more stringent when there was a single good, because that looks a little more like Kilayim, like accidentally something got sewn inside there. But when you make a conscious thing that there's a row of good, we say that the gap has to be less. Okay, the im higdila, now, as goods do, it grows and it starts spreading into the wheat field. Then he has to uproot. He has to cut it off and make sure that it doesn't encroach on the wheat field. Rabbi Yossi Omer, nosnin la avoda sa arba amos. Now he comes and he's machmir. He's super machmir over here. He says the gap that you have to leave between the good and the rest of the wheat field is now a daled amas. That's a huge difference. That's a very stringent opinion over here. Okay, we just went up from 60 centimeters odd to 2 meters. Amrulu hatachmir zomin agefen. Sorry, you're gonna be more machmir with goods than with a grapevine, because we see that with the grapevine, if you plant grapes on the ground in a single row, so it doesn't get the definition of a kerim. If it's not called a vineyard, if it's just called a row of vines, that's not considered a kerim, and therefore it only needs 6 tfachim gap. Whereas with the vineyard, you need the daled amas. So, but he's saying that if you plant a row of good, that's going to be more machmir than grapevines. And we're surprised at this because grapevines are much more strict in other senses. Because if you have kilayim hakerim, then everything becomes asa bahana.
It's also it's more chashiv. The grape.
The chashivas is not something that we really care about too much in halacha. The fact is that there's a stringency over here that kilaya hakerim becomes prohibited, completely. It's asr bahana. Whereas kilaya zeraim, if it happened, okay, it happened, uprooted, but there's no isser hana. No damage was done. Now we're seeing that we're so makil on a single grape plant that we only give it 6 tfachim. But with a row of good, we're giving it daled amas. So everyone's looking at Rabbi Yossi and saying, "What's going on here? Why are you being more stringent than with a grapevine?" Taka. We see that good is more stringent than a grapevine. Why? That for a single grape plant, okay, you just have to leave a gap of 6 tfachim. But for a good, we give it more space. We give it a base rova. So we do see that a good is more stringent than a grapevine. because don't be surprised when I'm more machmir about a rovid as well. Okay, Rabbi Meir Omer Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. Okay. Rabbi Meir quotes Rabbi Shmuel and says, "Kol shlosha deloyin lebeis sa'ah lo yavi zer letoch beis sa'ah." He says, no, we're even more stringent about goods. If you've got three good plants inside the area of a beis sa'ah, okay, that's quite a big space. A beis sa'ah. We said a beis rova is about 10 amos, is about 10 tefachim squared. And we say, so now that's, if we want to get to a base rova, we've got to multiply each dimension by about 5. Okay, so we're talking about half a meter. Wait, no, what am I talking about? Times by 5 in each direction. That's 50 tefachim. Yeah, 50. Sorry, 50 tefachim is 5 meters. Beg your pardon. Right, that's about a 5 meter square. 5 meters times 5 meters. That's about a basis. Let me just make sure I've got my math right over here. We said that 10 squared and multiply that 10 fucking squared is about a meter. Yes, that's about 5 meters. So we're talking roughly on the scale of 5 meters by 5 meters. Okay, if you've got three Delas plants inside the 5 meter space over here, then you're not allowed to plant anything else in inside that space. Which is, now that's pretty stark, right? That's basically 25 square meters, approximately.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a big space, and he's saying that that if you've got this area and you've got three good plants, you can't bring anything else inside it. Okay, Rabbi Yossi ben Hachotef Efrasi, Amar Mishum Rabbi Shmuel. There's a different Masorah of what Rabbi Shmuel said from Rabbi Yossi bar Hachotef Efrati. He says, no, Kol Shlosha Deloim Leveis Kor. He says, in the space of a core. Now, a core is a huge area. Okay, Lo Yavi Zer Letoch Beis Kor. And I think, and everyone else, I think, heard this one and said, come on. That's going a little overboard over here, especially when we've just seen Rabbi Yishmael, at least allowing Delas. Where did we say with Delas? Yeah, we said Rabbi Yishmael, allowed you to plant a row of Delas inside the field. So it seems like a bit of an extreme position to say that Rabbi Yishmael said that once you've got three good plants in the space of a base core, that a core is 10 sa'ah of tavua. So when we said a beit sa'ah was 5 times 5,
right?
So now you've got to take. So now you've got to multiply that by the square root of 10. So let's say approximately 3. So now you're talking about 15 by 15 square. Okay, so that's starting to get a little big.
Out of hand.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so we dismissed that opinion. We said the halacha follows the Tana Kama in this Mishnah, that you to revise that it's we if it's a single plant inside a wheat field, we give it a base rova, which is about 10 centimeters. If it's a row, then we only need to give it 6 centimeters. At least, sorry, 6 tefachim, 60. So that's 60 centimeters, and 10 and a base rova is about 1 meter. Okay, that's it. Let's go back to the beginning of Kilayim.
Going back to the beginning of Kilayim.
Yeah.
Not
we're starting Kilayim Aleph Aleph. Oh, beg your pardon. We got a week. No, this is right. We're starting Aleph Aleph now.
How come we're not continuing with?
Because we've done our 3 Mishnahs for the day.
Oh, okay, all right. But I did the 3 before that. All right, I'm confused. Didn't I do the 3 before that? Before you started?
You did. Yes, you did. And now we're doing our week Chazara from a week ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything that's not enough. Now Kilayim is confusing me, but it's enough that. Okay, wheat and darnel are not Kilayim, one with the other. Barley and oats and spelt and rye, beans and chickpeas, bitter peas and vetchling, white beans and kidney beans are not Kilayim with one another. Base. Cucumber and cucumber melon are not Kilayim with one another. Rabbi Yehuda says Kilayim. Garden lettuce and wild lettuce, endives and wild endives, leek and wild leek, coriander and wild coriander, mustard and Egyptian mustard or Egyptian gourd, and bitter apple or Egyptian beans and carob are not Kilayim with one with the other. Turnip and radish, cabbage and cauliflower, beet and orach are not Kilayim with one and the other. Rabbi Akiva adds garlic and wild garlic, onion and wild onion, lupin and wild lupin are not Kilayim one with the other. Okay. There was a question, but I can't remember what it was now. Let me see. All right, I'll try to remember what it was for next time. Okay. All right. Now we are
on Payad Dalajid Aleph.
Ant holes among the standing corn are the owners. Those after the reapers, the upper ones are for the poor, and the lower ones are for the owners. Reb Meir says all are for the poor. For doubtful, leket is leket. A heap under which leket has not been gathered, whatever touches the ground belongs to the poor. If the wind scattered the sheaves, they assessed it, how much leket it would yield, and gives it to the poor. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says he gives it to the poor as much as usually falls. An ear in the harvest, whose top reaches the standing corn, if it is not reaped with the standing ears, it belongs to the owner, and if not, it belongs to the poor. If an ear of leket became mixed up with the heap, he takes meiser from one ear and gives it to him. Rabbi Eliezer said, how can this poor person exchange something for which he has not come into his possession? Rather, he transfers to the poor person ownership of the entire heap, and he takes meisers from one ear and gives it to him.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, Nida Tes Aleph.
A woman was attending to her needs and she saw blood. Reb Meir says if she was standing, she is tameh, but if she was sitting, she is tahor. Reb Yossi says either way, she is tahor. And a man, do you hear that cat? Making all that
And a
noise?
cat, I thought it was a child.
No, that's one of the cats. He won't leave me alone. A man and a woman attended to their needs, urinating into the basin, and blood was found upon the urine. Reb Yossi says har tahor. Reb Shimon says rules har tameh, since it is not normal for a man to discharge blood. Rather, presumption of blood is that it comes from the woman. If a woman lent her tunic to a Gentile woman or to a nida, she may attribute a stain to the borrower. If 3 women wore a single tunic and sat on a single bench and blood was found on it, all of them are tameh. If they sat on a stone bench or on the seat of a bathhouse, Reb Nehemiah rules them tahor. For Reb Nehemiah was wont to say anything that is not susceptible to tumah is not susceptible to bloodstains. Okay.
Kilayim.
Baking boards of bakers are tameh, but those of households are tahor. If he painted them with red paint or painted them with saffron dye, they are tameh. Regarding a baker's shelf that was fixed into a wall, Reb Eliezer rules it tahor, but the Chachamim rule it tameh. A utility plate of bakers is tameh, but the plate of householders is tahor. If one made a rim on 4 sides, it's tameh, and if it subsequently becomes broken down on one side, it's tahor. Reb Shimon says if one prepared it so it may slice dough upon it, it's tameh. Similarly, the rolling pin is tameh.
Just to pause there a second. I mean, in general, we say that that pshutei klei eitz are tahor. If it's made out of wood and it doesn't and it's not a container, then it's tahor. So why are all these flat things? We've got these boards over here which we're ruling tameh, and that's a din derabanan. We say that they're tameh only susceptible to tumah midrabanan because they're used for preparing food in so frequently that we want to make sure that people don't get confused between these and things that do have a receptacle. So we just make everything tameh.
We also have a thing that if one is using, I think, an item that's more of a professional item, it would be more susceptible to becoming tame rather than
Okay, so right, so I was just looking at what's the difference between the things of the bakers. We said the arubos shall nachtame not tame and shall bale batim tahor. So what's the difference between them? The Kabbalist term apple pishem pshutik claims become gazra chachamim. So this is the chachamim made a gezerah on the ones of the bakers because they're made like a kli, but the rollers of these are the rollers, right? That's how we translate it.
yeah,
Um,
right.
right,
Rolling,
but for the Baalei Batim, we said no, they're not makabel tuma because they're not made like a kli. I'm not sure. Do you have any diagrams of different
no, I don't have
things there?
anything.
Okay,
No.
so so there were more machmir of on the professional ones because I guess because they're I don't know more. Why would they be more? It's just the commentary here just says because they're made more like a kli, but I don't. What does Archibald say about it?
No,
At the beginning of base, why the baker's rollers are tame, but the householders are not.
the baking boards of professional bakers are considered proper utensils, so they're susceptible to tuma. This is the Raj, the Rush, and the Rambam and the Rav. Because they lack a receptacle, they are not susceptible on the biblical level. However, rabbinically susceptible to tuma, either because they have a wide surface designed to place objects on, or because they are considered directly serve both humans and objects. In this case, the loaves of bread. Does that help
And
you?
the householders on the householders ones are not so big. Is that the issue?
The baking boards used in the home by private individuals are not susceptible to tuma, even rabbinically. This is because the boards householders use do not have the form of a utensil, in contrast to bakers who use smooth, finished boards on which to arrange their loaves. Householders use plain, unfinished boards, thus they're not considered utensils and therefore not susceptible to tuma. And
Okay,
alternatively, the difference between the baking boards of professional bakers and those of householders is is that householders do not designate a specific board for that purpose, since they do not bake often. In order
right.
for then keep going on.
Okay, so it's a more casual thing for the householders.
Right.
Okay, fine. All
Okay.
right, let's go into Gimel.
Gimel. The screen of a sifter. We found that also in something else that we maybe it was just Caleb about the susceptibility. I can't remember. The screen of a sifter belonging to flour merchants is tame, but that of households is tahor. So it's the same mechanism here. The Rabbi Yehuda said also the screen of a hairdresser is susceptible to tuma of the seat because the girls sit in it and they have their hair braided. Okay.
Is that right? Is it three? No, one more.
One more. All hanging loops are tame, except the loop of a household with sifter and sieve. These are the words of Reb Meir, but the comments say they are all tahor except the loop of a flour merchant sifter. The loop of the sieve is of the threshing floors. The loop of the hand sickle, the loop of a tax collector's staff, because they assist when the utensil is in use. This is the general rule. Those designed to assist when the utensil is in use are tame. Those designed merely for hanging are tahor.
Okay,
Yeah.
good rule. Okay, thanks. Now next,
Okay, so
Sanhedrin.
base. Whoever expands the interrogations is praiseworthy. It once happened that Ben Zakkai interrogated concerning the stems of figs. What difference is there between examinations and interrogation? In the case of examinations, if one says, I do not know, the testimony is null. In the case of interrogations, if one says, I do not know, or even if two say, we do not know, the testimony is upheld. Whether in the case of examinations or in the case of interrogations, if they contradict each other, the testimony is null.
You hear the distinction between the two. But there's some the bedikos. There are things that are essential information, like when and where and who, all the things that
Right.
directly pertain to the case. Those are called bedikos. And if somebody says, I don't know, well, okay, if that means we can't do it, you have no proof. But the
Right.
chakiros are the sort of what color shirt was he wearing? Which is yeah, it doesn't affect the case. But if one says red and the other one says blue, then they've contradicted each other.
Right.
So all that you can do is trip up the witnesses with those. But if you have a smart witness, he'll just say, I don't know, to anything that's off topic.
I plead the fifth. Okay, all right. If one says it happened on the second of the month and one says it happened on the third of the month, their testimony is upheld, because this one is aware of the intercalation of the month and this one is not aware of the intercalculation of the month. If one says it happened on the third and one says it happened on the fifth, their testimony is null. If one says it happened in the second hour of the day and the other one says it happened in the third hour of the day, their testimony is upheld. If one says it happened on the third hour and one says the fifth, their testimony is null. Rabbi Yehuda says it is upheld, but if one says it happened in the fifth hour and one says it happened in the seventh, their testimony is null, because in the fifth hour the sun is to the east, while the seventh hour it is to the west. After this they admit the second witness and examine him. If their words concur, they open with the consideration of acquittal. If one of the witnesses says, I can present grounds for his acquittal, or one of the disciples say, I can present grounds for his conviction, they silence him. If one of the disciples says, I can present grounds for his acquittal, they elevate and seat him among them, and he does not descend from there the entire day. If there is substance to his words, they listen to him. Even if he says, I can present grounds for my own acquittal, they listen to him as long as there is substance to his words.
Okay. Sukkah. Ches.
Okay. Okay. Women, slaves, and minors are exempt from the sukkah. A minor who does not need his mother is obligated to dwell in the sukkah. It once happened that the daughter-in-law of Shammai the elder gave birth, and he removed the plaster roof and placed skak over the bed for the child. All the 7 days a man must make his sukkah, his permanent abode, and his house his temporary abode. If it rains, when it is permissible to leave, when the porridge becomes spoiled. They illustrated this with a parable. To what is this comparable? To a slave who came to pour a cup for his master, and he poured the jug at his face. A stolen lulav or dry one is invalid. One from a share or from a city that was led astray is invalid. If its top was broken off or its leaves severed, it's invalid. And if its leaves spread apart, it's valid. Rabbi Yehuda says he should tie them together at the top. The thorn palms of the iron mountain are valid. The lulav that is 3 hands fucking long, enough to wave, is valid.
Okay.
That's it? Okay.
That's it.
You know about the new court ruling, I assume.